All right, folks, if everyone will wander back to their spots, I will go ahead and call this meeting of the Dunn County Board of Supervisors to order. We will begin, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if the clerk will call the roll.
Supervisor Lawfer is here. Supervisor Breslin is excused. Supervisor Headland is here. Supervisor Score is here. Supervisor Steen is here. Supervisor Shackleton is present. Supervisor Gary Bjork is here. Supervisor Wilsey is here. Supervisor Quinn is here. Supervisor Jetson is here. Supervisor Bashan is here. Supervisor Kinnear is here. Supervisor Barrier is here. Supervisor Calabrese is excused. Supervisor Lyon is here. Supervisor Vogel is here. Supervisor Story is here. Supervisor Vandermeulen is here. Supervisor Burnt is here. Supervisor Morehouse is here. Supervisor Hagan is here. Supervisor Thomas is present. Supervisor Prochnow is here. Supervisor Gilbert is here. Supervisor Larry Bjork is here. Supervisor Bauer is here. Supervisor Wolf is here. Supervisor Hartung is here. Chair McCullough
Here.
is here.
Approval of the minutes. I would need a motion in a second. Supervisor Steen moves, Supervisor Bauer seconds. Any speaking to the minutes?
There were the two meetings.
Hmm?
There were the two meetings.
Oh, yes, that is for the two meetings, including CIP. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is presentation of petitions, memorials, and other communications. I think the only one we have that I know of is for the departing supervisors from last term. I just realized that in the interim before the meeting, I took off my politician suit, so if you'll excuse me, I need to put this back on. I believe the only one of the departing supervisors who is here is Supervisor Witzel. If you would come forward, I would like to give you a certificate of appreciation for your 2 years of service. You did very good work for us, and I know you would have liked to do a great deal more. So thank you so much. I don't have anything else on that. All right. We are on to public comment, which is anyone from the public who wishes to come up and address the board can do so. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
We'll go off the sign up sheet, and the first one is Josie Pillman. And the microphone is on.
Sure, okay. And I'm Claudia Shepherd. I'll be reading a book that Josie's going to be talking about. It's called Families, Families, Families. Some children have lots of siblings. Some children have none. Some children have 2 dads. Some have 1 mom. Some children live with their grandparents, and some live with an aunt. Some children have many pets, and some just have a plant. Some children live with their father. Some children have 2 mothers. Some children are adopted. Some have stepsisters and brothers.
Okay.
Some children bunk with their cousins. Some have a mom and a pop. Some children's parents are married. Some children's parents are not. So no matter if you have a ma, a pa, a hog, this llama, 10 frogs and a slug, a cousin named Doug, a great grandma Betty and a great aunt Sue, uncles Hal, Al, and Sal, and Uncle Lou too, 1 stepsis, 3 step bros, 2 stepmoms, and a prize-winning rose, a robot butler to serve you tea, the world's biggest grandpa, or whatever it might be. If you love each other, then you are a family.
My name is Josie Pillman, and I'm from Knapp. So
Please state the address.
I'm sorry. I'm from 235 3rd Avenue East, Apartment 5 in Knapp. I'm going to be speaking to this book that Claudia read and some others. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak before you today. I believe you've all received an email from me about my concern for books in the Menominee Public Library. Today, we are using just one example. It may not be the most egregious, but it is very concerning because of what it represents. First, this book is written specifically to the youngest readers or even non-readers. This age group has no discernment of truth or lies. They fully trust the adults in their lives to impart truth. The book is done in a cute, fun way. This makes it all the more attractive to children. But the book contains a redefinition of the word family. It lumps the good and the bad together in one pot and calls it all good. This is very dangerous and confusing to young minds. Fornication and homosexuality are celebrated, along with the sound, one man and one woman committed for life. That's the true definition for family. The wrong of homosexuality and fornication is not called out. This lays the groundwork for these young minds to accept as truth what is not true. It destroys the very fabric of the families in Dunn County. My journey of learning the process of calling out and hopefully culling out wrong teaching in books began some time ago. I worked the process. The books were reported to the library. They formed an ad hoc reconsideration committee. This committee studied the books with their criteria and unanimously found them just fine. I was then advised to appeal to the Library Board of Trustees, which I did. They also found no fault in the books. The decision was unanimous. These committees seem to all think alike. No moral Christian worldview is represented by any member. I would get nowhere taking another book before them until that policy gets changed. So this time I'm appealing to the county board who holds the purse strings for the library. Just to remind you of some of the criteria for choosing or maintaining books in Menominee Public Library. Follow the American Library Association guidelines. Public demand, interest, or need. I could go on. They've got a long list, but I don't have time. Missing are the guidelines for removing lies and immorality and books that propagandize our little children. Missing are members of the Reconsideration Committee that critique the books through a Christian worldview, expressing the damage caused by celebrating immoral values in children's books. I asked you to correct our faulty criteria for books that enter and books that stay. Tell our librarians that wholesome books like what they look like. Raise the standard in Dunn County. Call some.
That would be your 3 minutes. Thank you. Yep.
All right, next up is Randy Selby. Sorry, I'm reading this from Access Securities.
Hang on a second. There we go.
Thank you for letting us come here and speak today. So Tony Kovac, who is the other owner of Access Security along with me, he lives at E6516 867th Avenue in Colfax, and we also have a storage shed there for our business. And the reason we're here today is to go ahead and talk about the security within the jail, courthouse, judicial center, and the specific reasoning for going ahead and changing the video system and the access control systems out. And we had concerns, which we expressed to a few board members already in regards to product lines, cloud-based type of equipment that leaves exposure to potential hacking and putting having information out in a cloud-based format as opposed to a closed network format like it is already is a liability that didn't exist before. And specific brands that were spoken about have actually had issues with being hacked, and that information has got out to, was made public in different ways. So it's a concern that we have always known about. We specifically tried to stay with a closed network where it's not available on the network and out to where it actually could make it out to the public. And so we're talking here about the issue with what the product line and the cloud-based, the issues that would happen if information got out and would expose Dunn County to legalities if that information, like specifically in a jail, the way people are brought in some instances where they are potentially could sue later if information, images came out, that they could go ahead and view themselves or somebody else could go ahead and view them. And those instances have happened with some hacking and that shared information. With the video system that you have in the facilities right now, there's been very minimal service that's happened on these systems right now. And we're talking like 11 or 12 service calls in a 5-year period. We heard that that potentially there was an issue saying that the wire might be old and maybe outdated. That wiring in the location potentially could last forever. Some of it's even protected by conduit itself. So don't know if that's actually gospel, that's the reason why the county was looking at going ahead and doing an upgrade, but for sure the wire is not an issue as far as being vulnerable.
I'm afraid your time is up. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Next up is George Kessel. Forgive me if I said your name wrong, George.
I'm George Castle, and I live at North 7858 210th Street in Knapp. I'm here kind of on the same issue that Josie Pillman is. I just want to say, first of all, I did not intend to come up and say anything, but it is really bothering me, the books that we're seeing both in our public schools and particularly that have started to show up in the public library. First, I want to say that, I've spent my life as an educator, 35 years. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and master's and doctorate in educational administration. I've seen a lot of children grow up over time, but I can tell you one thing, that about 90% of what we learn in life, we learn within the first 6 years. And when I see these kinds of books with these kinds of values reflected, which I think are dishonest values, I think it's time that we, to the degree you can do something about it, at the very least, I think that you ought to have a review committee that has a cross-section of values on that, not just one that has a unanimous vote on when they have a book come before them. And that's kind of what Josie's experienced so far, is that the book she's bought, it's all one way. If you have some authority or ability, I would just really ask this county board to be able to see that we have a cross-representation of the values that are in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the end of the list of people who've signed up for public comments. Would you like to come forward, Jolene?
County Public Library. I didn't know this was going to be happening tonight, but so glad I'm here. I just wanted to share with you and educate you all a little bit. Dunn County has 4 public libraries. They are all governed by their own boards of trustees, and they are appointed in part by the municipalities that govern them. In our case, the city of Menominee appoints 6 people to the board. One of them has to be a representative of the school district. And then Dunn County, because of the amount of money that you provide to us, are also able to seat 5 people on our Board of Trustees. So you do have a say in the policies that govern the Menominee Public Library. And Boyceville, Sand Creek, and what's the other one that I'm thinking? Colfax also have boards of trustees. Dunn County also has a library planning committee that meets to periodically update a plan for library service for all Dunn County libraries. I would just also point out that in 2023, excuse me, the American Library Association reported that 4,240 book titles were targeted for censorship, which is a 65% increase over 2022. This includes over 1,200 demands to censor library books, materials, resources, and 47% of them were about LGBTQ community or people of color. This is something that has reached the highest level ever documented by the Office of Intellectual Freedom in the American Library Association in more than 20 years of tracking. So there have been over 4,200 unique book titles that were targeted to be removed from schools and public libraries. I, as a parent, greatly appreciate having the freedom to select for my own children what I want them to read and have access to, what values I want to impart in my own family, but in no way would I want to make that decision for you or any of your families. That's what public libraries are for. And I would just direct your attention to the Menominee Public Library policies. We make them widely available on our website, menomineelibrary.org. About library policies, our collection development policy is right there, as along with the process that people can go through if they have issue with anything that we have in our collection. Just briefly, I would say that it's the library's goal to provide the community with library materials that reflect a wide range of views, opinions, and interests. This may include items that may be unpopular or controversial in nature. The acquisition of these items does not constitute endorsement of their content, but rather makes available its expression. This country was founded on freedom to have information, freedom to pursue your own.
Thank you, Jolene.
I will literally just be a second. My name is Brian Westrate. I'm with Congressman Van Orden out of the Eau Claire office. I want to say hello to everyone who may be new to the board. Congratulations and condolences on your election. I say that to literally everyone I know who gets elected to an office. And to all of you who remained on the board, congratulations as well. Please know, if you want to touch base with me after the meeting, I'd be happy to give you my card, but we're here to just help in any way we can. And that is the mandate we get from Derek. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Oh, wait, one more.
My name is Josie LaLiberty. I don't live in Dunn County, but I work at the Judicial Center. I am the Child Support Director, and I'm presenting my annual report later this evening. So if you'd like to stick around and hear about what the families of Dunn County look like, I encourage you to do so. As a mom and a Christian, I own that book, and I love the values of tolerance and acceptance that it shares with my children.
Thank you, Jesse. Any further public comment? All right, hearing none. Appointments. The appointment list in front of you. I will need a motion and a second for the chair nominated ones, so the ones that need to be approved. The above appointments of the chairs, there is a mistake in that. It should not be a reappoint of Dave Bartlett. It should be appoint Michael Kinnear. But I will need a motion and a second for the rest of the list. Supervisor Morehouse, Supervisor Steen. Any speaking to the appointments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the appointments list as presented. Any opposed? Motion passes. Report of County Manager. Over to you, Chris.
All right, good evening. Okay, first thing on the list, we have purchase orders over $40,000. In your packet, there was just one for some vehicles for the sheriff's department. Any question about those?
Chris, can I just clarify? In your packet, it says 2024 for Explorers. It should be Ford Explorers. We're not funding like a Lewis and Clark trip. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of backdrop for the new members, as well as some of you who've been around for a while might not know why we do this. Our county financial ordinance, Chapter 7 of our Code of Ordinances, requires that administration provide you, submit a report for where purchases exceeded $40,000. And there's a whole explanation to how that happens with bids and quotes and requests for proposals and various money amounts. But it comes from a requirement from our ordinance. That's why you hear about those each month. And then I'm going to invite Beata here. We're going to do for you a brief presentation about debt and borrowing. For those of you who've been with us for a bit, some of it will look familiar. Some of it is things that we've provided to you in the past. Some of it is some information that was provided by our municipal advisor, bond advisor, PMA last year. Again, the purpose isn't to tell you whether you should or shouldn't borrow money. It's to provide you with information regarding our current status, as well as give you information about making decisions going forward. So, Beata?
Good evening. This is perfect timing. We are really getting deep into the budget, including our capital improvement plan. So it's instrumental that we kind of review some of the intakes of what is our capital improvement plan and our debt. I guess I got the controller, don't I? So I'd like to point out, right now, Dunn County has been rated as AA. And what that is, it's our credit worthless. Just can't say the word. Worthiness. Thank you very much. Being bilingual gets me in trouble all the time. So, so think of it as your FICO score. How creditors look at you when you go borrow, when you go and try to get a mortgage or a car loan. So investors look at our rating, how we are financially stable, and what are the risks of not us as a county not be able to meet our debt obligation. So AA is a good score. And we are outsourcing that service, and this is something that's really part of the process of issuing debt. It's an independent agency. And there's four, there's Finch, there's Moody's, and there's Standard & Poor's. And this is what we go with. I also wanted to highlight is what do we have as debt? There were some events that taken place. You see there's some gaps in the years. So what this really demonstrates is we did some refinancing, but this is our existing debt. And I try to provide you a little bit of a purpose. What was that debt taken for? So currently, as of what's our remaining balance at the end of 2023 was $28,165,000. So any questions on this slide? I like visual aids. So sometimes putting in a graph gives you somewhat of a perspective. What this demonstrates is what is our existing debt reduction looks like. So this is as we're making our debt payments every year. On that table I provide to you is what are the principal payments we make and the interest each year. So in 24, we're going to be paying that 5 mil, and then 25 and so on. So as you see that every annual debt obligation is increasing, this is what that demonstrates down below in that graph. Did I say increase? Decreasing. going down. That's what we want. So if no debt is taken, we would be debt-free in 2033. Also, this is just an overview of our 25 to 29 CIP. So on the April 27th, we had the County Board Supervisors Capital Improvement Workshop. And during that workshop, the department heads had the opportunity to present their case as to what they're asking for and why. And based on some of that conversations, preceding that meeting, some management approached us and they made a decision to remove some items. So that is why now you see that less than what you saw during our workshop. So out of that $3.125 million in capital improvement, only $1.5 million is unfunded. 75,000 of that is fees, and that's mainly what the end nursing home, the neighbors submitted for their capital improvement plan. And then there is $1.5 million that's for highway equipment that it's planned on coming from the Highway Equipment Replacement Fund. And also keep in mind, I made a little note on the bottom, and I apologize if it's too small. Highway will have the county road construction, but that's going to be built in their operating budget. So that would be in addition to what this one is. I also wanted to give you a snapshot of what is our general obligation debt. And you might see that this is, somewhat of redundant, but the next one to it is that this year, last year, there was a approval to borrow $3 million when we went through the budget cycle. So this graph on that side, it's demonstrating that, assuming here that we're going to borrow that $3 million. So we also been working very closely with PMA, and PMA, what does it stand for?
I have no idea.
So prior to this, we worked with Baker Tilly. We've partnered up with PMA as to help us kind of navigate some of those complexities when it comes down to borrowing. So we asked them really early on as they came on board to help us build a model or some sort of a model that's going to help us identify what would be that sweet spot. And when I say sweet spot, what that means is what would that, what would our debt look like if we continue on borrowing X amount of dollars without increasing tax levy and have minimal impact on the mill rates. Because as you saw on the previous slide, our payments are about that 5. We pay off more than what we would borrow. So we wanted them to do this model to show us what would our comfort level or tolerance level be that's going to have minimal impact on the levy ask and the mill rates. And I don't want to go too much into detail about the mill rates and the tax bills. And just keep in mind that your tax bill has other municipalities on it. So we're just one of them. Dunn County is just one of them. You've got school districts,
Townships, CVTC.
municipalities, colleges, tech colleges, and so on. So according to our consultants or our advisors, the comfort level would be not to really increase much of what we currently would have as a debt service payment, be on the average of $4.1 million. That would be that what we call a sweet spot. Okay. And that would be annually for the next 10 years. So there's other variables that he considered in there as well. So he put a schedule for us. For example, what would our payments look like if we were to borrow on the average of that $4.1 million? So the first year, as he said, on the yellow, kind of mirrors what he has here, example of borrowing amounts. So if this presentation is, this PowerPoint is available. So if anyone would like to see that, let me know and I'll make sure you get a copy. Because there's a lot more content in that presentation. And Brian at that time actually came and did an in-person presentation. So here what he also prepared for us is demonstrating, like I was referring to, what is that tolerance level with a minimal impact. I know the colors are kind of blending in with the dark blues and the light blues, but the very bottom is, if you see colors like I do, you would have a hard time. But the very bottom is the dark blue. The dark blue is what I was showing you on the previous slide. That was my slide. The light blue would be that added debt. So as we are adding debt, we are paying more. Our debt is still going down. So borrowing debt every year does not necessarily mean that the debt keeps on increasing and increasing. So this slide, he prepared also a really nice table that I see a lot of value in. This is looking at our operating levy. So also he included an increase in our operating levy subject to the limit. He had it highlighted in 2024. That was the time that he did the presentation, assuming that the preceding years would be at about that 0.7. And this is all based on the net new construction. And sometimes that's one of those that's not as easy to predict. But he at the time, I should give him credit when credit is due, he was really conservative and wanted to make a reasonable assumption at a 0.7. Could be higher. And that's the very last column is what would our total operating levy be with that change in percentage. And then he actually separated the bridge and the library, so you can see what that looks like. And the very last column is all totals. If I'm moving too fast, by all means, let me know and I'll slow down. So this is again the debt service levy. This is existing debt service plus the 10 years of the projected annual borrowing at the average of $4.1 million a year. That keeps the annual debt service near about that 5.3 million every year. So he's just trying to demonstrate this is where our debt service is this year, 5.78 million. And it stays in at fives and it slowly goes down. And this is for those that love graphs to then demonstrate what is that change in percent to the total levy using the existing debt and the projected. So as we did the 2024 budget, I just kind of want to reiterate and kind of visit high levels. What was applied in 2014 when the budget was adapted. So we had ARPA funds. ARPA funds came in 21. We didn't get in the bank until 22, right? And according to the feds, we have to obligate the funds by 2024 promise or contracts or anything that's been obligated or assigned to. And the checks need to be written out by 2025, 6. Because they know that takes a while for contracts to get done to make all complete the payments. So in 2024, we balanced the budget by allocating 1.57 million of that ARPA funds. And those ARPA funds were went towards the capital improvement plan. Majority of it did. So when we put the budget together, it was really important to identify items that were qualified under the rules or criteria by the federal government. Because we all know when they released the rules, there was still this unknown. So there was not so much clear instructions. There was a lot of some of that gray, but to be on the safe side, we went through and helped identify which items would qualify for that money. Also, there was applied 1.654 million of fund balance. And there was an IT and highway replacement fund of 1.4 mil. And we also had some transfer from other funds, which is that 400,000. And what that is that we had unused funds that was sitting in our capital improvement fund. So that means that we either could have been borrowed or any money that was left over from what we estimated would cost and what it actually cost. So we took that money and we applied that into the highway. We also have 100,000 was for self-funded health insurance fund and 3 million debt. And of course, the rest is grants and levy. So also, what is our current general fund balance? And this particular balance is what we call unassigned. Unassigned means it has no restrictions on it because there are different types of funds. So this dollar amount is then available to apply to future expenses, however the county board of supervisors see fit. Also, in 2023, there was an ordinance passed, Dunn County Ordinance 42, specific to the fund balance. So the fund balance should not be less than that 35% and no greater than 50. But that is from the general fund operating expenses. So think of it as your savings. You know, my husband and I and my husband try to keep it at least at 6 months based on what it costs us to run our household. And if we were to become unemployed, that would be kind of our reserve. So that's very similar logic. That would become our reserve. And best practices also do apply into those fund balance, meaning that don't treat it to pay your regular wages. So as we go into the budget phase and there's more questions about what's a general fund, what is a restricted fund, we can go more into detail, try to explain to you at that time. But if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them today too. And also, you know, before I switch over, 35 and 50, it's fairly good because the recommended by the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association increments, right? Their recommended is 25 to 33. And even having, prior to this, we were above that 50. So this still built in a fairly healthy reserve if funds are needed. And here's my question mark guy. So if any of you have some time to kind of think about this, and you want to see more detailed presentations from PMA, that's available to me. By all means, reach out to me and I'll make sure you get a copy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beata.
Mhm.
Chris, do you have anything else you want to add, or shall I move on to the next item? All right. That concludes the report of the county manager. Item 9, reports of departments. We begin with the county clerk. Andrew.
Hello, everyone. Andrew Mercill, your county clerk. There was a presentation of the report that I had put in the packet for you all to, I'm sure, pine over and read thoroughly. But Chris has always asked us to highlight something that's interesting or add some additional information for you as a supervisor. So I chose what's in an election. It was a twist on what's in a name, but that might have just been fun for me. Anyway, I want to kind of highlight all the work that goes into an election. So we just had the April election, and so I want to kind of give you a timeline of how long it takes to prep and then administer an election in Dunn County. 6 months. It takes 6 months for me to prep and be prepared for the April election every year. So we start in November, and there are various things that happen every single month in the lead up to the April election. Now, we also had a February election, and so that also happens. But I want to give you kind of the overview of what it takes to get to an April election, because we do have an April election every single year. So make sure that you always vote the first Tuesday in April. So it's a 6-month time frame to get ready for a spring election. I won't read every part of this, but just know that it's very in-depth, right? So in November of each year, we start, this particular year, we started with Badger Book training because several new municipalities were going to be using Badger Books for the first time in 2024. So we did several all-county Badger Book trainings, and then I have to start sending on November 15th the type A notice to the paper and to everyone just to be aware that there will be an election in April. So there's many different things, and we have to start assembling the candidate packets that you all took out from the office to run for county supervisor, and then additional Badger Book trainings. These are all the documents that came in your packet. I'm sure you all read them very carefully, so I won't go into that anymore. December, again, there's work that goes on in December. It's the first day you can circulate papers. So we keep a candidate log of all candidates who have come to the county clerk's office to take out information to run for county board. We do that so people can be given an opportunity to really learn about all the forms and what they're required to fill out. As well as doing various Badger Book trainings. There's deadlines for filing the referendum questions that we're working with. Dunn County has 15 different school districts, so we're constantly having to make sure that we are facilitating the information coming to them about referenda questions, as well as their elections and municipal elections that are happening for town, village, and boards and city council. And then we also keep a list that's published online of the notification of non-candidacy for county boards. So any county board supervisor who is not going to be rerunning for election, we post that as a way to make sure that if people know that there's an open seat and if they'd want to be interested in running for county board, this would be their opportunity. So work happens in November as well. You can see there were 42 candidates that ran for county board that checked out packets from our office and 3 notification of non-candidacies. January, now we start getting to a lot of different work, right? So one of the things that we have to do is the deadline for filing for the office is January 2nd. That includes county boards, school districts, and municipal offices. After that, we really start assembling all the information that we need, including doing Badger Book trainings, drawing the ballot order for how candidates will appear on the ballot if they're challenged by another opponent. Various reports that are due to Command Central, which is our election vendor. There were several meetings about the threats to election officials that we are expecting to be facing in 2024. That's an ongoing monthly call that we get. It stemmed from the 2022 as well as 2023 election about various things like fentanyl-laced letters that are being mailed to election officials that we're having to deal with. So it's definitely one of the things that we try to make sure that county clerks as well as municipal clerks know that we could be facing as increased pressures come on with elections. And then publishing various referendums. Information gets published in the paper as well as online about how to vote by absentee ballot. There's various deadlines that go on for that. So you can see there's many different activities that happen almost daily regarding elections. And these are just kind of some of the highlights. As we move forward, these are some of the documents that I have to put together, right? So this is Command Central. They're our election vendor in Dunn County. This might not look like it makes sense to you, and that's okay. It shouldn't, because it's supposed to make sense to me, because I'm the county clerk. But it's every municipality, right, on the left-hand side, and then there's a code for which office is going to be appearing on their ballot, right? So it's a presidential preference, county board, if there's a municipal election, if there's all the different school boards, which school boards are represented by which municipalities. It's very in-depth, and this is something that the county clerk is responsible for to make sure that everything is accurate. So when we did redistricting in 2021, almost all of this changed, right? So it's a lot of information that we have to keep track of. So that's one of the documents that gets put together and sent to our vendor to make sure. It includes ballot orders. So we have to look at historic data on how many people have voted in the February election historically, as well as April election. We've been looking at August and November as we move up, but then we have to place ballot orders as well. In addition, we have to put the ballot layout together. So ballot order was drawn for each of you to run for county board. That's one document. The presidential preference, county board, each municipality that's having an election has to have theirs done. This includes very close attention to detail with spelling of names, everything like that, as well as the ballot layouts for the various 15 school districts that are represented in Dunn County. So those are just some of the fun documents. Then we get to February. We have an election in February. It's a primary, right? But in all the lead up to that, we're doing various countywide poll worker trainings. That's something that I started shortly after my tenure as county clerk to make sure that elections are administered the same throughout Dunn County. It was something that most of the municipalities were doing on their own. And so as a service to the municipalities, we just make sure that all the election inspectors for each polling location are invited to participate and learn how elections should be run. So we're all doing it the same. You can see there's other various Badger Book trainings. The Secretary of State came to visit. We've been working on a project to open up the opportunity for work study students for tech and four-year institutions to be able to potentially work for clerks, municipal clerks, county clerks, to help in the processing of records retention, digital storage, everything like that. Quite exciting for a records geek. It's really fun, right? So various things. We have the spring primary this year. I was only up from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. That was pretty good for the February election. And that includes various stops at municipalities to make sure that I usually try to go about 6 municipalities each election to make sure that the poll workers have questions, those that can be answered, stop in to make sure everything's running smoothly. And then, of course, election day drop off of all the supplies from the clerks the next day, and then we start election reconciliation. We then have to roll right into prepping for the April election, right? We did the primary, and the results of that always have to feed into the April. So you can see all the ballots get delivered. Very structured and organized system that I have in the vault to make sure all the municipalities get their proper materials. And you can just see there's several different things that happen. There's public sector town halls where we're talking about election day challenges that could come up. We're doing more poll worker training, chief inspector training, right? So each polling location has a chief inspector that is like the main person who's responsible for running the polling location that day, in addition to the municipal clerk. And we haven't had the April election yet, but March 20th, we have to start publishing the information about the August and November elections, right? So there's a lot of overlap that happens throughout the year as it relates to even number years with 4 elections. So various Badger Book trainings, as you see there as well. Then we get to April, right? It's finally election day. It's been 6 months, yay. 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. Still not bad for me on election day. These are some of the stops that I made down in Rock Creek, Peru, and then this is from the town of O'Galley. You can see they're very excited in O'Galley about their new Badger Books. They were really thrilled. So I always try to make sure that I visit those various locations like I mentioned. And then the day after the election on April 3rd this year, that was the deputy county clerk's last day. So as you've heard, I've been on my own for the last 6 weeks, and it's been neat. And we're going through the process of hiring a new deputy and assistant deputy county clerk. But in the meantime, we're doing election reconciliation. The Board of Canvass meets to certify the election. It's a lot that happens, right? But it's important because elections are expensive, as you've seen in the budget, but they're also really important. So it's the fundamental root of how we administer our democracy, right? So it's mostly meant to be a highlight to show you the work that goes into a simple election that people think like April, that's easy, right? Well, there's a little bit more to it than filling out some paperwork. So that's just kind of the general sense of how we do a 6-month into an election. With that, I'll open up for questions, either on the annual report or anything related to election questions that you might have.
Second, I'm gonna,
Kelly, did you have?
oh, no, I'm turning on.
Oh, sorry, there's a,
Supervisor Larry Bjork.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Had a good opportunity yesterday at a committee meeting to meet and sit next to and visit with the new District 20 representative. Found him to be a very bright, intelligent guy with a curious mind.
he's okay, yeah.
He's okay. He's real good.
Mm.
So I have no problems with him.
Yeah.
But I do have problems with what I keep hearing about the District 20 race as far as who was a candidate and who wasn't a candidate and how they came to be candidates. I'm glad he's the guy. And you've always been my go-to guy in the county. I mean, you know, I stop in pretty grubby to see you once in a while because something comes to mind. Andrew's going to be there. He can answer my questions. So I don't have a problem with you, Andrew. But I really don't like all the scuttlebutt that I'm hearing about freedom of information and the requests that are made. And I just hate to see people go to the courts, Nick, to get that information.
Mhm.
And, you know, a judge can order it and you'll have to find time to do it. So do you have any comments at all about what's happening with freedom of information?
Is that a Nick question?
I believe you were all emailed updated lists of various requests that have been made. As an office of one for the last 6 weeks, I have tried to prioritize and set aside time to answer those in which I have been able to answer as far as information requests. It appears that even though the information has been provided in certain instances, there's a sentiment that that's not all the information. But I can only provide records that that we keep in Dunn County. I can't make up records. So for example, one of the requests has been for a cast voter record. That's not a record that exists in Dunn County. We don't get the cast voter records. It's not something that can be produced. So when a records request is sent and it is responded to, if a person disagrees with that record request and the information that was sent, that is their right. But again, I can't make records that don't exist. There have also been some accusations that have been thrown out about me and the involvement in District 20. Right. Oh, can you bring my thing back up? I just want to highlight that in the presentation, how it works, and there's a couple of poll workers that are here that can attest to the training that we do. In the instance when there is an open seat for any office, whether it's on school board, county board, municipal offices, in the instance that there is an open seat, the requirement by law, by state statutes, says that any person who is written in on a ballot, their vote has to be counted. In a normal instance, if somebody was running for District 26, for example, and wanted to show up and run as a registered write-in candidate, because there is a candidate that exists on the ballot, the law states that we only count the write-in votes for registered write-in candidates. The caveat is, if it's an open seat, the law states that we must count every single write-in vote for that office. If you see here at the bottom, on March 29th, that was the deadline to register as a write-in for the April 2nd election. It's always the Friday before an election at noon with the filing officer. I was here until noon, even though the government center was closed that day because it was our county spring holiday, as it was Good Friday. I was here till noon. Someone came to register as a write-in candidate. I facilitated their request. They filled out the forms that they wanted to submit. I processed it and then pretty much immediately updated the list of registered write-in candidates that I provide to all the municipal clerks based on if an election for a write-in candidate is going to affect their polling location. I then went to the town of Colfax to administer a Badger Book training. I'm almost 40. I haven't been up till midnight in, I don't know, a decade. So when somebody says Andrew was up till midnight trying to recruit a candidate, people say a lot of things about me. They aren't true, right? I would love to be able to stay up till midnight. Not going to happen. Can't do it. 9 o'clock's pushing it. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. So if you have questions because of anything that has been said, my office is always open. I will take your phone call. I would love to facilitate that in any way, shape, or form. But contrary to what's been said, I did not specifically recruit a candidate for District 20. I was not involved in that at all. I think that the concern is that I had and that I might have been doing something that is questionable. I've only ever tried to make sure that I administer the duties and responsibilities of governing of my office to the utmost potential that is deserving of the office. Does that answer your question, Supervisor Bjork?
Yes, it does. And thank you for your response. And if you did take credit for getting the guy, I'd say good job. Okay. But I just don't want Dunn County to be thought of as not doing things proper.
I don't either.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Kelly, is there?
Hang on. Supervisor Hagan.
Thank you. Just to pivot here to something else. You say it takes about 6 months before an election to really get the ball rolling in all of them. November is coming up, and we just had those changes to the state constitution happen. June is about 6 months to November. Has your office started preemptively preparing for what may happen in those regards to those changes?
Yes, so I think what Supervisor Hagan is referring to are the two referenda questions, the statewide referenda questions that appeared on the April ballot regarding election workers and who is qualified to work an election. The Attorney General of the state of Wisconsin has been working very diligently to try to work with the Supreme Court to figure out what exactly is the intention of that verbiage, since it remained fairly vague. What constitutes an election worker? Who gets to make that definition? Is it statute? Is it county clerks? Is it the Wisconsin Election Commission? It's just uncertain at this time. So we're working on it at a state level to try to make sure that everyone will follow the new referendum as they've been passed to make sure that that is effective for the April election. This most likely happens to potentially target various service groups that would come in and help send out absentee ballots, for example. So for the city of Menominee, who have upwards of 1,000 absentee ballots for any given election, if it was left to just the clerk and her deputy, it could potentially take them several days to label and stuff 1,000 different absentee ballot envelopes. And as you can see in the timeline, we have really short windows in which to produce ballots, get them printed, proofread them, get them approved by the Wisconsin Election Commission, and then get them out of the door based on what's required by law. So it is something that we're all county clerks. We have a weekly meeting that we discuss this and what are the updates. We just don't know all the details yet, but we are working on it. We have our ears to the ground, and we'll make sure that we follow whatever advice has been brought down to us from the state.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Courts Department's Criminal Justice Collaboration Committee. Sarah, come on up.
Good evening. I'm going to have one slide pulled up here in a second. At your tables, you should have a flow chart of the CJCC, just some highlights, but we're going to go through that. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Sarah Benedict. I'm the Criminal Justice Director here in Dunn County. I serve as the coordinator of our Dunn County Criminal Justice Collaborating Council. I'm also the manager of our Criminal Justice Collaboration Division that is part of administration. So tonight I am pleased to present our annual report of the Criminal Justice Collaboration Council. The comprehensive report is in your packet, but I just wanted to take an opportunity here to highlight some of the activities of the CJCC in the last 16 years since we've been up and running. And let me start by saying that the CJCC is a group of criminal justice and stakeholders at the county level, the city level, and the state level. So we have 22 members of our organization that really get together on a monthly basis, and then a larger quarterly meeting that we really focus on criminal justice collaboration. And let me tell you that Dunn County has a highly functioning collaborative environment. So it's very good news. And some of the activities that we've undertaken over the years have really been cumulative. We started out in 2008, county board resolution was passed to create the CJCC. CJCCs are best practices nationally, really getting to those stakeholders together. The first couple of years was really focused on our, what we call diversion court at the time. We call it treatment court now. Again, an evidence-based program that is really highly effective when we're talking about people that have substance use disorders and are in the criminal justice system. The focus in those first couple of years was really, we had a part-time, me, I guess, and a coordinator of the court, but was really trying to get the CJCC established. Some grants came in to support some of the programming, but I came in 2014 when the CJCC was going through a strategic planning activity through UW Stout. There was a lot of concern at the time that the CJCC was too large and not really focused, and really just wanting to get a chance to see what the members wanted to focus on and look at the best practices out there. So we were tooled. We did some minor bylaw changes, but ultimately we did change the structure of the CJCC and created work groups focused on different task areas. The county signed on to, well, I should say the county signed on to the Stepping Up Initiative, which is a national initiative to reduce the number of people with significant mental illness and substance use in jail settings. That was a county board resolution that was passed back in 2016. But we also undertook the National Evidence-Based Decision-Making Initiative, and really that's a comprehensive way to look at the local criminal justice system. We did some mapping to really identify areas that we can improve. Because the criminal justice system, although they call it a system, it's a bunch of different organizations and agencies really working in silos or separately. Our goal of the CJCC is really to bring those leaders together, look at our data, look at the issues and the challenges that we face, and then look for solutions to those challenges. So over the years, we've been able to really put some remarkable things in place. Dunn County, for the size of our county, we really are an envy of other small rural counties in the country as far as what we're able to do with so little. And it really is about all the member agencies coming together, having their staff involved in working together. We've got collaboration across departments, divisions, in ways that I couldn't have even imagined. But just some of the highlights, we've got law enforcement using a proxy tool to help their decision to cite somebody for an offense, to arrest somebody, or to bring them into jail. So some tools that are out on that officer level that they can use. We had in 2016, our district attorney's office started a pre-charge diversion program. Really, we know through research that if you're a low-risk individual through criminal justice risk, that you can have more harm done to you if you're incarcerated, if you have a criminal record. So for some of the low-level crimes or those first-time offenders, they can benefit from this pre-charge diversion program. And the stats are in the written report, and they're fantastic. These are individuals that are not coming back through our criminal justice system, but it allows our prosecutor's office to really focus on those more severe crimes and use their limited resources as effectively as possible. Throughout the years, we have developed a pre-charge diversion program, post-charge diversion program. We had pretrial services that were up and running. Most of these things were grant funded. We do have county levy dollars, a portion into our activities, but these are also programs and activities that are going across the board. The sheriff's office, the district attorney's office, our partners with human services. But the list just goes on. And I'm not going to take all your time because I know you've been here for a while. But I do want you, hopefully, to take a little bit of time to look at this printout. You might need a magnifying glass because some of the print's small, but it does really give some of the broad brushstrokes of the activities that we've done in the past couple of years. And again, these things are cumulative, and we wouldn't be to the point we're at now if it wasn't for all that hard work and the groundwork that we've laid. But we are so highly functioning and collaborative at this point that when we see a grant, we know we have a need, we're able to really get together and secure the funds. So we've done that through a number of different programs and agencies benefiting from it. And ultimately, it's the people of Dunn County that benefit from it. These programs are proven to reduce the recidivism risk, so that risk of that individual reoffending. And it also helps them get treatment needs that they might need. So by and large, we find that most of the criminal activity in Dunn County is related to drug and alcohol abuse or untreated mental health issues out there. So when we're able to really know who's coming through our criminal justice system, we're able to develop programs and pathways so that they can get the treatment that they need, we can hold them accountable, and hopefully that we don't have them cycling through our criminal justice system. So I would be happy to address any questions that you might have at this point. Silence, I'll take
wait.
that. Oh.
Supervisor Story.
Yes, I just wanted to lift Sarah up. Several years ago, when I was chairman of the committee, a lot of this was going on. And we are so very lucky to have her because it's her expertise and her time and just all of her abilities that have brought it to where it is now. And I do believe some years ago, and maybe since then, she's been asked to actually do presentations in other locations on our particular program, given it's how successful it is. So I just want to make sure that our board is aware just how lucky we are to have her and hope that we continue to keep her.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Supervisor Story. Agreed.
Any other questions?
Supervisor Laufer.
I was just curious, what percentage of the people that are incarcerated and go through this program, what percentage of them actually repeat and end up back in the system again?
So these are a whole variety of other programs. So, these aren't just one program. These are several different programs across the agencies. So I guess there's no simple answer to your question. As far as what we know, when people come into the jail, we do assess them for mental health needs, substance use needs, pretrial risk. That information is sent through the system to inform decision makers as far as, detain somebody, keep somebody. Then from there, folks are made aware of the different programs that are available. If they're eligible, they can apply. The judge ultimately typically would sentence them, so to speak, to these programs, and then they're able to take part of them. So in the full written report, it does break down the utilization of each program, and annually we do put out a recidivism report for treatment court, for our treatment opportunity program and the pre-charge diversion program. But you know, each of them have different stats and different outcomes.
I was just kind of curious as how we could assess whether we're getting, you know, a good bang for our buck, you know, when the taxpayers are paying for these programs and stuff. Is it something that the taxpayer is actually benefiting from, or is it something that, and without the statistics on each one of those programs, how would you know whether or not?
Supervisor Laufer, the statistics are in the larger package that you've got, so you can look that up.
Yep. That's what I was just kind of curious as to whether or not, you know, we would have all those statistics to see if it's.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
thank
we
you
do.
very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, when we're talking about bang for a buck, this is probably the biggest bang for a buck. When we're talking about incarceration costs being upward of $30,000-$40,000 per individual. And if we can break the cycle of incarceration for somebody and make them healthy and taking care of their family, and working and paying taxes, that's definitely a win-win for everybody involved. Thank you.
Looks like it. Thank you, Sarah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Josie, child support. I was looking at.
Hello again. My name is Josie LaLiberty. I'm Child Support Director here in Dunn County. I've been in this position since August of 2020, so coming around to 4 years pretty soon. But this is my 20th year in the child support program. You got my annual report in your packets. And I was just going to speak tonight to highlight a few statistics and then spotlight a particular function within my office, but I'm going to go a little off script to address the families in Dunn County. When I started dating my husband, my now mother-in-law asked me what I did for a living. And I said, well, I work in child support. And when I told her what that was, and I'll tell all of you in a minute, she said to me, I don't know how you can work with those people. And I said, what people? Our community members? The people that are next to us in line at the grocery store? The people in the pew next to us at church? Child support does not discriminate. We touch so many people from young to old within our community. At the start of my career, so this is, oh gosh, I gotta do math, 2004, it was still a little salacious, a little scandalous if a mom didn't have her children. And there were the whispers like, oh, I wonder what's going on with her that she doesn't have her kids with her. Now we don't bat an eye. Family has evolved. And even here in small rural Dunn County, we have same-sex couples, we have some transgender, all races, all ages, children with grandparents in foster care, with aunts. It's a mixed bag. And that is the honest to God makeup of the families in Dunn County that my office has the absolute privilege to serve. Okay, so what is child support? When people ask me that, and it's amazing how many people don't know, I say, well, we establish paternity, and then we are either in some phase of establishing, reviewing, or enforcing a financial order for child support or for parents to provide health insurance for their children. It is a federal program that is administered by the states. It's called the 4D program. It was authorized under the Title 4D of the Social Security Act. So I might go back and forth between child support and 4D. To me, they mean the same thing. People often think of us as an enforcement agency. That's what comes to mind, and probably honestly gives us a bad rap a lot of the time. But it's only a fraction of what we do. All the services that we provide are mandated. And not any one of those things that I mentioned is more important or more or less necessary or crucial than any of the other pieces, okay? Specific to Dunn County, there are 1,865 open enforcement cases within my office, and we collected just over $5 million in 2023 in child support. When my office is fully staffed, which knock on wood, right now it is, we employ 8 people, and approximately 95% of my operating budget is salary and fringe benefits. In 2023, the child support agency was on the county levy for $88,378. But because we're a federal program, we have the benefit of entering into what are called cooperative agreements. So I have a contract with Corporation Counsel's office and the Clerk of Court's office. And so non-child support agency staff that help us to do our work can keep a time accounting that gets submitted. And through those agreements, the child support agency was able to receive federal reimbursement in the amount of $62,106 for our partner agencies within the county. So if you offset those two, the child support's net impact on the county levy was a mere $26,272 in 2023. So we're darn near free. County Manager Corpola invites us to spotlight something within our department. And tonight I was going to highlight paternity establishment. So again, we're kind of thought of to be an enforcement agency. And that does take the lion's share of our time. Because if you establish an order for support at infancy, and then child support continues to charge through graduation or age 19, whichever, well, it's 18 with a diploma or age 19, whichever occurs first. But then if there's a debt that still is out there, the child support agency has 20 years. So until the youngest child on the case turns 39 years old to collect that debt. So from infancy through age 39, during the life of that case, we could be involved. It could open and close several times, or be open continuously. And so the enforcement is happening essentially throughout. But I think one of the things that we do that's even more important is establishing legal fatherhood for the children of born to unwed mothers. And I did a little bit of research, and in 1980, the percent of children born out of wedlock was about 18% in this country. Today, it's around 40%. Wisconsin is right up there. We're right around 37% of all children are born to unwed mothers. So the nuclear family, that it doesn't exist for 40% of the families we serve, okay? So when you're married in Wisconsin, the husband's name goes on the birth certificate by default from the get-go. If the mother is unwed, that's a blank line. And so it's the local child support agency who can help assist families to adjudicate that legal fatherhood. There's 3 different ways we go about doing that, but it's important to do because a father has 0 legal rights to pursue legal custody or physical placement of their child until the legal relationship has been established. Okay. Beyond that, even beyond the visitation and the placement and the money, the father and child don't have the ability to inherit from one another. So in 2023, we actually had a case where mom and her fiance were expecting, and the fiance tragically died unexpectedly when she was around 4 or 5 months pregnant. They had the forethought to preserve some of his DNA. And when that child was born, my office was able to go through the legal process to get a court order, to use that sample, to compare it to the mom and the child, and we got the results back, 99.99% probability of paternity. A judge here in Dunn County made the ruling that he was the father, added his name to the birth certificate, and because of that, that mother was able to go to the Social Security office and apply for Social Security survivor's benefits for that child that she will now receive through that child's graduation. If we weren't there to help her with that, she'd truly be a single parent. Okay. So the 3 different ways we go about establishing paternity, quickest, easiest, cheapest way is through what's called a voluntary paternity acknowledgement form. Mom and dad can come in and sign their names in my office in front of a notary, pay a $10 filing fee. We mail it to Madison, and the Vital Records Department will add dad's name to the birth certificate. If they are an intact family, that's all we have to do, and the child support agency's case will close. Once paternity's been established, if they are living under the same roof, not married, but cohabitating, the case closes. The problem with the voluntary paternity acknowledgement, though, is that you are agreeing to legal paternity, legal fatherhood, but that's different than biology. So you don't have the benefit of that 99.99% probability of paternity. So the 2 other ways are through genetic testing, which is also done in-house in my office. We have a contract with DDC DNA Diagnostics. For maybe some of you older in the room, it's the same lab that Maury Povich uses. It's totally legit. I say that joke to the young people that come in now and they I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, well, it used to be funny. So there's a voluntary or administrative paternity process and a court-ordered paternity process. If I have to bring people into court and compel them to submit to genetic testing to prove paternity, that paternity piece or the genetic testing is required by statute if we have to do it through the court. If people don't need the court to tell them to come in, they can just call and make an appointment, and it's a cheek swab. We'll get the results in a couple of weeks, and then they'll know. So that's paternity establishment. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. So I guess with the chair's approval, I will answer any questions.
Sure, and the chair would like to note, as someone who survived his childhood based on child support coming into my family, thank you. Supervisor Hagan.
Thank you. A few years ago, I emailed your office and whatnot because one of my constituents was having troubles with the payment process. And not to go into any details other than that, your office was commendable in working through that and making sure the payments were done on time and properly. Because without your help, that payment system would not have gone through. And you know what happens when payments don't get paid on time and everything. So you guys made it so much easier for my constituents. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And actually, my one of the staff in my office created a payment options letter because our system is old. Actually, the state in their biennium budget did authorize some funding to modernize the computer system. Anybody familiar with Oregon Trail? That's what we're working with. And it's there is no electronic payment method built into the system. It's just too old. And so there's all these third-party entities that say, "Ooh, pay your child support through us. We're going to charge you a fee, but then, we'll do it for you." But there's so many options. And so she actually streamlined it into a very lovely letter. I shared it with a few colleagues, and then the next thing I was asked to share it, and it's now published on our statewide bulletin board, basically. So, yeah.
That looks like it. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, sorry. Supervisor Wolf, you did not come up on my screen. I apologize.
I just pushed the button. Thank you, Chairman. As personally going through the system, I would like to thank both the court system, the uh, child services, and the county services. My only caveat to that is that you are all separate entities, and in order to get anything from one to the other is just about impossible.
We are
Thank you.
different agencies, yes, so people will sometimes forget to let us know their address, and then they'll say, well, I updated it with clerk of courts. I'm not the clerk of courts, so yeah.
Thank you, Supervisor Wolf. Okay, this time for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. That brings us to the end of item 9. We are now on 10, consideration of reports, resolutions, and ordinances to the county board from the executive committee. First, a resolution amending county supervisory district maps. I need a motion and a second. Supervisor Steen moves. Supervisor Bashan seconds. Andrew, do you want to?
Sure. This is this resolution that's before you, including the map, is pretty standard. Whenever there's an annexation from one municipality to another, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that the legal descriptions, which is the fun part that our land information officer puts together. So commencing north at the corner of, and then henceforth about, fascinating. So check this out. It's really good legalese. Whenever they do that, we have to modify the county supervisory maps. As you can see in this particular map that's attached in your packet, the city of Menominee is annexing the road from the town of Red Cedar. So that's quite exciting for them. That's really all this is. It doesn't impact the supervisory districts in the population. There's nobody that lives on the road that we are aware of, so it won't impact the constituents that the two districts have. So if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But it's just mostly a standard legal practice to modify the map.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, seeing none, we are ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item B, 2024 budget adjustment, highway and facilities. I need a motion and a second. Supervisor Morehouse moves, Supervisor Burnt seconds. So you will be seeing quite a number of these over time. By and large, what they are is grants come in, we have to adjust the budget to take account of that grant so that we can spend it. It's just very much bookkeeping, and it's just part of the ongoing job. If anyone has specific questions, I'm sure we can answer them, but that's the gist. All right, because it's a budgetary impact, it's a roll call vote. So the clerk will set up the electronics. You can vote on your piece.
So you might have to tap your screen to reactivate it, and then if so, it should give you the voting option. And once you've completed the vote, that will go away.
All right. Motion passes. Item C, approval of the 2025 budget calendar. I need a motion in a second. Supervisor Story moves, Supervisor Quinn seconds. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory, but if anyone has questions, we can certainly get those answered. All right, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. We have a calendar. Item 11, consideration of reports, resolutions, and ordinances coming to the county board from the standing committees. A, Committee on Administration, resolution approving intergovernmental IT agreement. I need a motion and a second. Supervisor Bauer moves, Supervisor Headland seconds. This is looks fairly straightforward. It's an agreement for the county to pick up some IT from City of Menominee. If you have questions, we can absolutely answer those. Dan Dunbar is here and would probably be the best to answer those. So does anyone have any questions? All right, this is a voice vote, Nick? Yes. That's what I thought. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Announcements. So our next regular county board meeting is June 19th at 7 PM. Supervisor Steen also wanted to add something.
Thank you. I owe this august body an apology for my lack of decorum at our April 26th meeting or 27th meeting. For that, I apologize.
Thank you, Supervisor Steen. Supervisor Hagan.
Hi, so tomorrow evening, I've put together what I call a elected officials open office hours. So it's a event or more like just a open door gathering of elected officials. So far, I have 3 county board supervisors, a Menominee City Council member, and a Menominee School Board member joining me with this. This is just a time set aside that I'm planning each month that anybody from the public can have a location and a time where at least one elected official is there to just come and chat with and talk with. It's nothing formal. There's no schedule or anything like that. This is just simply kind of like have a coffee and chat with someone who is in an elected position to talk about whatever's on your mind. So it doesn't like make any policies or anything like that for sure. It's just so that people can have a way of talking with people that they have elected. So I invite, well, I don't know about quorum rules for an event like this. But I would invite as many people that can legally come and do this to be there.
And
This meeting has been posted, so.
it has
if
been
any-
noticed.
It's been noticed legally, so if there are other county board members that want to have a beer at Prairie Nonic tomorrow.
Yes.
I mean, sorry, I'm talk about county business. That's what's the meeting's about, right? Not beer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a side effect. But yeah, so for those of you who got the orientation talk about, please don't have a meeting without it being noticed. It has in fact been noticed, so you don't need to worry about that particular item.
And going forward, I'm thinking the county building here has been approved for this as well. So future meetings, I'm looking at having it hopefully be here. If not, I will let people know when I plan on having the next ones. So thank you. I hope to see you there.
And just on that topic, so Supervisor Hagan, if you are interested in doing something like this, so constituents have an opportunity to come speak with you, please let me know. I will reserve you a room. The conference room's upstairs, right in the main entrance. I'm happy to do that for any of the county board members that would like that.
And then we'll make sure it gets noticed properly. Okay,
Chair McCullough,
yes.
I would just want to, this is going ahead a little bit, but just bring your attention to a couple of date things that are a little outside of the norm. So typically the county board meetings are on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. However, by ordinance in July, we moved to the last Wednesday of the month. And this year there happen to be 5 Wednesdays in July. So we will be on July 31st for our county board meeting in July. So just kind of put that in the back of your mind to remember that. Then there is not typically an August county board meeting, but we will meet the last Wednesday in August on the 28th to do the budget workshop. And then just a reminder that we will do one more new board member orientation next month in June. And then we will start in July, September, October to do some tours, facility tours, meet department heads, et cetera, activities. So again, those are publicly noticed as well. So anyone is able to participate in that, but we will meet at 5 o'clock with the new board member orientation next month in June.
Supervisor Thomas.
Quick question. What was the August date again? Sorry.
28th.
28th.
Okay. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Miracle and alphabetic. That's pretty good.